Hey guys, today we're going to do a quick oil change. So the way I'm going to do it is using some Rhino Ramps. I recommend these because you can just drive right up onto them. You don't have to deal with jacking up your car or anything. So I can link to purchase some of those in the description. You also want some wheel chocks if you're going to use those Rhino Ramps. Some of the other things you're gonna need are drain pail, your oil, which is gonna be for the Subaru Forester. It's 0W20. You want some gloves because you're gonna get oil on your hands. Got OEM Subaru filter and the crush washer. So let me get you the part number there. You want your socket, you want a funnel, and you want a creeper so you can get under the car easier. So let's go ahead and get started. First things first is you want to get the Rhino Ramps under your front wheels. So the way to do this is you want to hit the midpoint on your tires. So you're going to drive into your garage straight in, and you basically want an equal distance on each side of the tire, so that when you drive straight up onto it, you won't have any problems here. So let me give you a better view of how that looks. So just kind of like that. Okay, so now you're going to go to your back wheels, put the chocks in, just like that, so it doesn't roll back and crush you while you're changing your oil. Gotta push that little lever to the left to get into your engine bay. And here's your oil filter. Here's where you're going to add in oil later. Here's your dipstick, so you'll be able to check your oil level after you do your oil change. And then your drain plug is right in this little cavity right here. So you can kind of see if you're coming from under the car like this. It's right up in there. Make sure not to do your transmission pan. That's your transmission pan. Don't drain that. So what I like to do before I get under the car and drain the pan is I'll open up the fill hole. That kind of lets air get in so that it drains more efficiently. Okay, just to give you a better idea, there's your drain plug. So you can either use an 18mm socket or an 11/16 socket. Since this isn't torqued on crazy tight, you can use either. Okay, so what you'll do here is you'll get the bolt broken open, broken loose, and then you're gonna get your drain pan right up close while you do this part and loosen it the rest of the way. I'm gonna try and leave my drain pan on the ground just because I'm demonstrating this to you guys. So the direction that this oil is gonna want to shoot out is basically this way towards the driver's side. Because of the way the bolt's oriented, it's basically like shooting out diagonally to the side towards the driver's side. So that's the direction you can expect the oil to go when you unplug this. So let's see if I can avoid making a huge mess here. So here we go. And if your engine's hot, you gotta be concerned with the heat of the oil, so just be careful. You want to wear goggles. Just be careful, don't get any of this in your face. Alright, there we go. Oh, cool. Looks like I made it. Alright, so let's let this drain. See how many quarts we get out. should be just over 5. Oh. The other thing you got to watch out for that I wasn't paying attention to because I was filming is that after your drain starts slowing down, it's not going to shoot diagonally anymore, it's just going to drop straight down, so you might have to compensate for that depending on the size of your drain pail. So if I remember correctly, when I drained this, my oil was pretty low. I was, I think, almost a quart shy, so that's going to reflect on this, but I'll go ahead and cut away and come back to this once it's finished draining. So while things continue to drain down below, you can kind of clean things up topside. Once you let most of the oil out and there's just a little dribble, it's safe to take off this filter. So it's going to be, sometimes depending on who put it on last, it'll be tough to get that off. I was the one that put this filter on last time, so I made sure to get it tight but not incredibly torqued on there. If you're having a hard time getting that off, you can use a oil filter wrench, which are specialty wrenches just for getting oil filters off. But since you're throwing this one away and replacing it, you can just get any old wrench and just really squish it on there and you can break that thing loose. I've had to do that before. You might collapse the filter a little bit. I mean, don't go crazy on it, but you'll be able to get it off with one of these if you absolutely had to. But yeah, we'll go ahead and take the filter off. There should just be a little bit of oil that comes out, like so. You're going to want to dispose of this properly because it is, you know, environmentally unfriendly to chuck in the trash. So I know you can take it to like AutoZone or O'Reilly's, your used oil and the filter, and they'll recycle it for you. So you'll just take some paper towels and kind of soak up the oil that was sitting here from the filter. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I just like to do it, you know. Just to kind of clean up that mating surface, because your oil filter has a little O-ring on it that seats on this little platform here. So once I get it cleaned up, I'll show you what I'm talking about. We have that clean now, and here's the filter we're going to put in. And I don't know if you can see that, but there's a rubber O-ring that goes all the way around that. So you'll get some of your new engine oil on your finger here, and just kind of get that a little wet with oil. And it couldn't hurt to put a little bit down here. So this is this area where it actually mates with the O-ring. So that's where you get your seal, and that's very important. And you also want to make sure you have no foreign debris that you get in there or into your filter while you have everything open. Otherwise that's going to end up in your engine. So it's pretty easy. You just screw it on clockwise, and then you start feeling resistance. Just kind of, you'll feel it almost bottom out. Don't, you know, torque it really hard. Just get it kind of firm like that with your fist, and that's plenty seated. I've never had a problem doing it that way. Another thing you can do while your pan's draining is you can clean up the oil drain plug with a paper towel and put your new washer on there, crush washer. So you want to put I don't know if you can see this, but there's like a rounded side and a flat side. So put the rounded side down onto the plug so that the flat side is facing up to the pan, and go ahead and reinstall that. So after most of the oil's drained out, you're still going to get a little drip like this. So when you put your plug back on, you're just going to have to kind of do it quickly so it doesn't get too dirty there. And then get your wrench. And you want to get that crush washer crushed, but I think the torque spec is like 19 foot-pounds. You just want to get that a few twists on there tight. You'll feel kind of how tight you need to go. Once it starts slowing down a little bit on your with moderate pressure, you'll know you'll have that back on there tight. So now we're ready to add oil back in. Okay, so we're going to take our funnel and we're going to make sure that it's nice and clean. There's no debris that we're going to put into the engine when we add our oil. We have a 5-quart container of 0W20. We're just going to pour that nice and slowly in. So this isn't a race because if you pour too quickly you could end up making a mess. So just give it enough time to get down into the engine. The manual calls for, I think it's 5.1 quarts. What I like to do is I'll put 5 quarts into it and get the car level onto the ground, start the engine, run it for a little while, and then I'll check the oil again and kind of top off the final amount that's needed. So I'll kind of show how to do that later. Okay, we got all our oil in. We'll take the funnel out, put our cap back on. Same kind of thing, just kind of moderately tight, not crazy tight. You want to be able to get that off later. Okay, now we're going to drive the car back off the ramps. You'll want to make sure to remove the wheel chocks from the back wheels before doing that, otherwise you won't really get anywhere. It might be dangerous too. So we're just letting the engine run a little bit to circulate the new oil through before we actually check the oil levels. And you'll want to check the oil level on a flat surface, so you want to be relatively level when you do that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and check the oil now. Take the dipstick out. You want to clean it off. Get all that oil off the dipstick. Reinsert it. Bring it up. And let's let it focus there. You can tell it's about a little past halfway. Sorry, I'm not getting a good focus. Here, let me try and focus that. There we go. Just from me checking the oil numerous times in the past, I can tell it's a little past halfway, but let me see if I can get a more accurate reading. That's a little more obvious. You can kind of see that it's more like halfway between the two dots. So the amount of oil between those two dots is 1 quart. So basically you need a little less than a half quart added in to get completely full. But it's safe. It's safe to have your oil level within that range. So it's your choice whether you want to add oil now or add oil later. But we're going to go ahead and add a little more oil right now. So we're going to take our oil cap back off. Put the funnel back in. And if you look at most oil bottles, they're going to have these marks that indicate quarts and liters. So the notches on the right are quarts. So what you can do is you can pour out exactly how much you need to get to that level. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 quarts, and then if you notice, gets you up to 5 right here. So if we drain all the way down to here, we've put 1 more quart back in. We don't need that much, so maybe we need to go about halfway. You don't want to get this stuff, you don't want to get the foil from the pour spout into your oil either. Let's go ahead and pour some more in. That's a good amount. Let's see what we're at now. Okay, we'll do a little bit more. Now it's always, you don't need to get it all the way to the line. You just want to get it close, because what you don't want to do is overfill your oil. So we added a little more in, probably a little less than a half quart. Take the funnel back out, put the cap back on. We'll turn the engine on again. We're just going to let that run for a little bit to circulate the new oil in a little more. Come back over to our dipstick here. Okay. Let's check this again. Clean it off. You'd be surprised how many Jiffy Lubes, or even I've had the Subaru dealership improperly fill the oil back up, or had too much oil, and that, that can ruin an engine if you don't catch it right away. So yeah, I can tell we're just under the full mark, which is perfect. You don't want to hit that second dot. That wasn't a very clean mark, so let's try that again. Let's see if you can see that. So we're just under the full. If it was all the way to the full mark, then that little notch would be filled with oil. So we're exactly where we need to be. So that's it for in there. Another thing I like to do is have a spare quart of oil in my car with me, so that my habit is every time I get gas, like a full tank of gas, I'll check my oil, provided I'm on a level surface at the gas stations. Not all gas stations are level, but I'll check my oil, and I'll maybe go through a quart or more between oil changes. So it's always good to have some oil with you. It's a lot cheaper to buy it in these big containers, and so I'll just keep a spare quart container and fill it up from the big bottle, and that's a good way to save money. This oil change is only going to cost you like 30 bucks or something like that. So usually a synthetic oil change will cost you 50 bucks or more, depending on where you go. And the people that they have do those oil changes are on the bottom rung. That guy might only be working for a week before he's put on your car. So you really should trust yourself over the brand new hire to do this oil change, especially if you have like a $30,000 car. Okay, got that pretty much all the way full there. Don't really need to worry about getting it on the exact mark, because you're not going to try and measure that perfectly anyways. You just need a bottle of oil. So there we go. Make sure that's tight, of course. And if you want to be extra careful guarding against leaks, you can always put that in a bag too before putting it in your trunk. But it's good to have some oil with you. Okay, that should do it. We successfully changed our oil. You definitely want to do this. I like to do it every 5,000 miles, but it really depends on the type of driving you do. If you do really light driving, not short trips, because starting your engine repeatedly on and off for short distances, that actually wears out the engine more than someone who drives 400 miles a week, but they leave their engine on for like an hour at a time. So you want to look up how heavily you're wearing out your engine. You can also kind of take a look at your oil too. If it starts looking pretty bad like that, then maybe it's time to change it. But you you want to do it at least every 5,000 or 6,000 miles, like the manual says. So that should do it. Thanks for watching this video. I'll try and post some more videos in the future.